come out. You're going to be the mridanga player? Mridanga? You're the mridanga player? All right. A pro. Haribol. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Vedana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandjana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandjana Jamanatira Vanachari Jamanatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasaranandana Brajajanarandjana Jasadanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamanati Ravanachari Jamanati Ravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Parabahangsa Parivijagacharya Astatara Satasti Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Shri Kishore Kishori Ki Jai Savida Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Pimanandi. So we're discussing chapter 2 this evening of Madhurya Kadambini, and let's do a little review from chapter 1 of Madhurya Kadambini. Who would like to volunteer? Raise your hand. Who would like to volunteer? One of the important messages that we heard from chapter 1.
Yeah, it comes from Krishna.
Oh, so is Bhakti independent of Krishna?
No.
Okay. So rephrase your sentence.
Bhakti is something, the source of Bhakti is from Krishna. It doesn't have any other source. Is that the right way?
Let's do a little editing. Let's start with Krishna. What would you hear about Krishna?
I've heard that the example
in chapter 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the verse Savai Samparo Dharmo, and then Ahitukiya Pratiyata was the one that was stated. And it was saying that its devotional service must be causeless and unmotivated to satisfy the self. So devotional service is causeless materially, but it happens by Krishna's mercy.
Okay. Very good.
And Bhakti is distributed by Krishna's devotees. They have power of attorney.
Power of attorney, right?
And it's independent of pious activities.
Okay.
The processes of karma and gyan don't reap fruit unless there's bhakti within it.
Very good. Let's go. Can somebody remember how he begins the chapter? Hint, he speaks about Krishna. What does he say about Krishna in relation to this subject matter? He's the source of all rasa. What does that mean? He's the source of all rasa. What does it mean? How does it apply to this topic? You're not sure? Just looking at your notes, okay. Anyone can say? How does it apply to this topic? Doesn't apply at all, right? He just liked to talk about Krishna. Well, huh? You have something? Okay.
Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is proving that the absolute truth is variegated, that and amongst the variegation there are different potencies. So specific potency was mentioned as that aspect of Krishna.
That's called Mahavakya or the principal utterance, the essence verse of the whole Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that defines bhakti as unmixed. So he begins by saying, previous chapter, bhakti gives bhakti, and bhakti is unmixed with karma and gyan, similar to the previous message of the previous chapter. So unmixed with karma and gyan, and he writes, is compared to a wish-fulfilling creeper appearing in the field of the senses. What does that mean? We use our senses to serve the master of the senses. So bhakti is within the heart or within the soul proper, but that which is within the soul proper extends through consciousness into the field of activity through the senses. That's his message. This little beginning introduction paragraph. So this bhakti is the refuge of those devotees who firmly vow, he uses this language several times, dridha vrata, they vow never to seek any fruits, karma and gyan fruits specifically, anavritam, except bhakti, like bees who are madhus or madhuvrata. They want to taste the nectar of devotion, bhakti rasa. And he goes on, the very life of this creeper is a favorable attitude for service for the pleasure of the Lord. So who knows what this anukulya, there's anukul and pratikul. What does anukul mean? Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam. Anukul is indicating accepting things favorable. So specifically, the favorable attitude, anukul, is accept those things favorable. The prohibition is reject on things unfavorable. So what is the power behind that discriminating choice is devotion. So the creeper of devotion, the bhakti creeper, has this quality to it, favorable attitude for service. And when that bhakti creeper starts to grow, because that's what this chapter 2 is, you receive bhakti and now growing that bhakti. Like a touchstone, the very presence of bhakti makes the heart and the senses gradually lose their iron-like material qualities and acquire pure golden spiritual qualities. It's a metaphor, comparing iron to gold, but it's like a touchstone transforms metal, base metal into gold. That's what a touchstone does. So it acts like a touchstone, bhakti. Makes the heart become more spiritual. It makes the senses become inclined more towards the spiritual style of life or quality of life. Pure golden spiritual qualities, the heart and the senses. That's just, he's beginning this little chapter with painting a picture for us of what bhakti is. And then following nectar devotion, because in one sense, Madhurya Kadambini is a retelling of some of the key messages of nectar devotion, but in a simple form. So he starts with sadhana bhakti. Now, you nectar devotion scholars, what are the three main topics of nectar of devotion? Hint, sadhana bhakti is one of the three. Okay, sadhana bhakti is one of the three. What are the other two? Huh? Bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. So he's going to take us through the sadhana bhakti part. And he describes, in the book that you have, if you brought it with you, there are 2 leaves of the bhakti lata, the creeper of devotion. Boop! They just stick through the soil and unfurl the first manifestation of the bhakti creeper. And there's a upper side that's smooth and the lower side that's more rough. You'll see that's coming up. So these they're natural products. When you're cultivating the seed of bhakti, the creeper begins to grow. And that's when you start sadhana bhakti with this dridha vrata, what's that? A determination. I wish not for karma and gyan fruits, I wish for only bhakti. I wish for that. I'm not there yet, but I wish for that. It's my hankering, my intention, like we were discussing in Bhagavatam class the other day. Sankalpa. I just want the pleasure of Krishna. I'm not there yet, but I'd like to get there. So when that, I'll say it again because it's important. The seed, this is written in one of Prabhupada's purports, taken from the Sandarbhas also, that the seed of bhakti is the hankering for serving Krishna. So supposing we don't have the hankering for serving Krishna, we're going to do something impelled by the modes of nature and our past karma. We're going to do stuff. When one receives association of devotees, then those things that we have propensity to do because of guna and karma, there's this seed of a desire that we want to serve Krishna with those things that we do. That's our nature. That's bhakti. And that's in the seed stage. That's what he's saying. This dridha vrata, never a commitment, a determination, a hankering to go in that direction in my life. I wish to seek only the fruits of bhakti. I wish to come to that stage at least for Krishna's pleasure. And that creeper, that when it first makes its appearance, has 2 leaves. And these 2 leaves in Sanskrit are kleshagni, and the other one is shubhada. So you scholars of Nectar of Devotion will know that chapter 1 is called Characteristics of Pure Devotional Service. And there's 6 of them, right? The first 2 are these 2, and he's teaching us that these 2 correspond with sadhana bhakti. So supposing we're just beginning sadhana bhakti, and what is that? That is this hankering or determination. I wish to come to the stage where the pleasure of Krishna is the purpose of my doing what I do. And then this creeper starts to appear that has these 2 leaves. One, relief of suffering, or the causes of suffering. That's what klesha is, suffering. And kleshagni, destruction, or relief from that. And then shubha means auspiciousness. It gives shubhada. It is the source of all auspiciousness. And we're going to see a few slides later the qualities of auspiciousness just from sadhana bhakti, just practicing the activities of sadhana bhakti with that favorable attitude. I wish that Krishna will be pleased by this cleaning of the floor, by the chanting of the holy name, by the attending of Mangalarti. It's not just the mechanical behavior itself, it's the bhakti spirit within. And then each leaf has an upper and a lower surface. The upper one is smooth, the lower one is rough, These correspond with Vaidhi, that's the rough under, and the smooth is the Raganuga Bhakti. And I edited this in the one that's on your screen. Vaidhi, properly performed, especially these 5 most potent activities, can, if performed according to Rupa Goswami, if performed without offense, at once one can experience ecstasy in devotion to Krishna. Ecstasy in devotion to Krishna. So here's these 5: reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting the holy names, worshipping the deity, residing in Mathura or Vrindavan, and serving a devotee. So any one of these 5, I'll say it again, Rupa Goswami expresses, if performed without offense, there's such potency in these regulative activities that one can at once be transported to ecstatic love. And further, this raga or raga bhakti means thirst or desire for things pertaining to Krishna or for Krishna himself. And there's the practice, and there's the person who one follows, the ragatmika bhakta. Now he doesn't include these things in Madhurya Kadambini. It's just the teaching of nectar devotion. Okay. Now we're going back to the 2 leaves. The first one in Sanskrit was kleshagni. Right? What does klesha mean? Suffering. Miseries, suffering. 5 types of kleshas that are destroyed by bhakti in the sadhana stage. And he lists them, so we're just going to go through the list that he provides. The first 2 sound a little bit alike, so listen carefully to see how while they're alike, they're distinct. Avidya means ignorance of one's identity. So to mistake that which is impermanent to be permanent. That which is full of misery to be pleasurable. That which is impure to be pure. That which is not the self to be the self. Avidya. Ignorance of one's identity. Now, here's the next one. It's you accept another identity. Asmita. False ego of I and mine. Bodily identification of I and mine. To accept only direct sense perception as real. That's a byproduct of that. Asmita. False ego of I and mine. Similar but different. So the point is, by bhakti, these can be destroyed. Just sadhana bhakti, become accomplished in sadhana bhakti. Raga, that is the material kind of raga, or attachment to material happiness as a means to decrease suffering. I just find some material happiness, enough of it, and my suffering will go away. So that's a klesha. It leads to suffering. It leads to further implication in matter. Hankering for material happiness. And dvesha is the opposite. Hatred or aversion to unhappiness or the causes of unhappiness. Raga dvesha. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, right? Raga dvesha samutena dvandava mohina bharata. So they look good at the beginning, but they bring misery. and it's dissipated by sadhana bhakti. And abhinivesh is just a pervasive obsession with having material things and seeking happiness through those material things and bodily enjoyment and clinging to those things pervasively, just like a way of life. So above, there's raga as a particular object. Abhinivesh is just a pervasive disposition towards material things. Is it clear? Should we go through the 5 again? Would that be helpful? You want to say something? Huh? You want a question? Sure. Do we have a microphone?
Is this dvesha equivalent to envy?
Similar. It's disdain for the unhappiness of material life. Not exactly. I'm intensely averse to any kind of suffering, or whatever it may be, cold or heat, or someone says something and brings me unhappiness and I can't take it. The unhappiness or the causes of unhappiness. So I suffer. Not exactly. Envy is towards Krishna, that's dvesha towards Krishna. But then we have the material existence and we have dvesha towards material existence. Okay? Sure.
Seems to be a subtle difference between dvesha and abhinivesh. Talking in terms of abhinivesh meaning fear.
No, abhinivesh has to do with, rather than some specific thing that I have aversion towards, abhinivesh is pervasive. I don't like to hear the sound of crying children. I have this aversion to hearing the screaming of a child, just like my good fortune that I have that aversion. Abhinivesh is having an obsession pervasive towards, material existence in general. Abhinivesh. And that brings misery or suffering. Okay? Distinction. Any questions on this page? We're doing the question time now. Okay. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, our author of this book, these kleshas, then give rise to right or wrong action, religion or irreligion, sin or piety. If we have this raga or dvesha or asmita or avidya, then it leads to sin, and then sin is resting perhaps as kuta or seed, or just germinating after the seed stage, bija, and almost fructified, a prarabdha, and then prarabdha, fructified. So that is to say, these things also become, we find this in Nectar Devotion, the sin and the causes of sin become eradicated by sadhana bhakti. The potency is there for that. All these 4, they're within, so there's suffering that I'm undergoing now, that's prarabdha. And those that are just about, and then those that are germinating and those that are still in a seed form. Sadhana bhakti has a very strong effect. Now there are other practices that Scripture recommends, but the difficulty with them, just like we find in the sixth canto with Shukadev Goswami being asked by Maharaj Parikshit how to prevent people from having to suffer the reactions, the fruits of their sins. He recommends atonement, prayaschitta. To that, Maharaj Parikshit says, well, it may reduce or nullify the reaction, but the tendency is going to remain. They'll go and sin again, then they'll suffer. So what can remove the tendency to sin? This is what's being said about sadhana bhakti, has that potency. And then the other leaf is the shubha. Shubha, da, the giver of divine qualities. So here's a nice list of divine qualities. Disinterest in material affairs and interest in Krishna. You can say that's detachment and attachment to Krishna. But a disposition towards, it's a divine quality. Gratitude, arising from bhakti, sadhana bhakti. Mercy and compassion towards others. We heard Radhanath Maharaj speak very wonderfully about this mood of compassion. It's available just from the devotional service and practice. What to speak of further stages and further stages of bhakti. Forgiveness and tolerance. Truthfulness, divine qualities. Simplicity, equanimity, fortitude, gravity, respectfulness, humility. So if you want any one of these, you know what to do now. Sadhana bhakti. Sincerely, very attentively performs sadhana bhakti. To support his statement, he makes two references. Here's one of them. From the 5th canto Bhagavatam, very famous verse, Yasyasti Bhaktir, Bhagavat Akinchana Sarvayar Ganais Tatra Samasate Sara. All the good qualities of the demigods become manifested within the devotee. Well, specifically, Prabhupada has translated, one who has developed unalloyed devotion. But even in the sadhana stage, these qualities begin to manifest. The qualities of the demigods, wow, just by sadhana bhakti. Shubhada. And here's another verse from the 11th canto, chapter 2. Shri Kishore Kishori Ki Jai. This is quoted in purport in Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Parishano Bhavo Viraktir Anyatra Cha. Commonly Prabhupada would end the reference to the verse there. Chaisha Trika Ekakala Prapadyamanasya. These three things. What? Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. Remember, there's written the qualities of divine qualities. These three simultaneously occur for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then he goes into a little discussion about the difference between the rate of appearance of one or the other, the disappearance of undesirable qualities and the appearance of good qualities. In essentially, some people it happens more this way, some people more that way. As with the difference of the rate of unfurling of leaves of a budding creeper, so also there are natural differences, devotee to devotee, in the rate of shubha qualities manifesting and of ashubha qualities disappearing. So this is the beginning, this is chapter 2, the beginning of the presentation of the creeper of bhakti in its initial budding stage. So now he does a little review of there's 9 processes of bhakti, and it begins with faith, adau shraddha. And then he explains there's different things in which one, in the beginning stage, in the sadhana stage, there's faith in the scriptures that deal with bhakti, and faith in the activities described in those scriptures. And then now we have 2 types of faith. The spontaneous faith and that which comes from association with others who are bhaktas. Isn't it? Some persons just, it's very easy for them. Spontaneous and natural faith in the bhakti process. Just very, very easy. Others, through association, hearing strong messages, carefully presented, carefully attended to and understood and questioned. And then there's this other kind of faith. They're both very good. And as far as sadhu sangha is concerned, that faith which leads one to take shelter, so there's adau shraddha, tata, the second stage of bhakti is this one, sadhu sangha. He's going through the stages of bhakti. That initial faith leads one to come to the stage of taking shelter and acquiring about proper conduct, sadachar, Vaishnav etiquette. And gradually, through sadhu sangha, one begins to associate with and take up relationships with others who are of similar disposition, like-minded devotees, and seeking advanced devotee association when that's possible. And his comment is, these are both very important in the middle, madhyama devotee stage. They help one come to that position very quickly. And the chapter's almost done. There's other aspects he wants to talk about in this chapter too, in relation to devotee association. And that is, it's related to higher stages of bhakti, but he explains the mind, by that association, the mind becomes more spiritualized and more focused, more concentrated. And material attachments, while they remain in this, because there's gradually material attachments become less and less, they're less, but they're pretty much, at least standard-wise, pervasive. And then comes the third stage. In the association of the sadhus, you take up devotion activities. Now here's again this vidhi and raga. So there's steady and unsteady. We're going to hear about this as the anishtata is where we are, unsteady. And by gradual progress in spiritual life, one may become steady. This is of this third category, bhajana kriya. And it's very humorous. I find his sense of humor is very, very nice. Utsaha mayi, this is the first of 6 kinds of unsteadiness, and they're progressive. So a new student, and the classic example is a new student enrolls in the class, he thinks, oh, I've learned everything already. Little boy sits down and he's mastered everything already. But then one can get over thinking they've mastered something already with that kind of false confidence or false utsaha, enthusiasm, and then it becomes sometimes sporadic, sometimes enthusiastic, sometimes lax. Ghana Tarala. I heard Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj giving a class on Madhurya Kadambini, and for the Utsahamayi, he gave as an example. One time he was at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, which George Harrison had donated, and he came to see how the devotees had used that property that he had donated to them. So it was like a big event. George Harrison driven up in this big limousine. He got out of the limousine, and one of the new brahmacharis went running over and played full dandabas right into a mud puddle. And he stood up and he's dripping with mud, and George said, "You didn't have to do that." That was an example of his utsaha mayi. Enthusiasm that's like, over the top. And then after some time, making some intense endeavor, just like, a newer devotee may decide, I'm going to, perform near Jalakadasi every Ekadasi and stay up all night and just chant the holy name and make spiritual advancement. And then something happens. They fall asleep. One time, there were some advanced devotees doing this at some point in our Brooklyn temple. And there was a newer devotee that saw them doing this, so he wanted to imitate. And then the cook went into the walk-in refrigerator and found that brahmachari had offered everything in the walk-in refrigerator, was stuffing himself in the evening. Ghana Tarala, sometimes enthusiastic, sometimes not. Vyuta Vikalpa, the classic, is the indecision of a young man. Should I get married? Vyuta Vikalpa. And he goes through this long description of, well, brahmachari life is very wonderful, and there's so much freedom, and I really like brahmachari life, but on the other hand, it's very difficult to maintain brahmachari life. And maybe it's the proper thing that I should just take that responsible position, but then on the other hand, and then on the other hand, and on the other hand, and on the other hand, and back and forth and back and forth. Now, that's not necessarily what everyone goes through, but one who is doing something like that, this bhoga tyag, or hovering on the mental platform, indecisive about something, that being a classic one, vyuta vikalpa, it's a type of unsteadiness, anishtata bhakti. Then the next two are very similar. Inability to give up bad things and the inability to uphold vows. So one at a certain stage of life considers there are some things that are not good, that are part of what I do or say or my life. And I think about it very carefully and consider from different angles, and it's really good for me to give this bad thing up. But then being unable to maintain or sustain that determination to vishaya, sangara. I stay associated with this vishaya, sense gratification activity. And then things that I want to do, it's going to be very beneficial for me, I'll something. And then being unable to uphold that. These are stages or categories of unsteadiness, and the final one, number 6, is taranga rangani, enjoying material facilities that come from bhakti itself. The ranga, in Sanskrit, the word ranga means waves. Just like in Sri Rangam, or the Lord, the deity's name is Ranganath. the Supreme Lord, lying in the causal ocean that has many waves. He's Ranganath. So Rangani is diminutive, it's small waves. And Taranga is trying to be the enjoyer of the small waves. So from devotional service, something comes. Someone may say, "Oh, Prabhu, you sang so nicely," or "You gave such a nice class," or "You cooked such a nice offering," or "You something. You decorated the deities, you made such nice decorations for the Nrsimha Chaturdasi festival," something. So this unsteadiness of devotee is one starts to enjoy. Oh, I'm being praised, finally, somebody recognizing me. Or you get some position, some title. Someone may worship you, and oh, this is now at last. This is this unsteadiness, enjoying the facilities from some success in bhakti, then something comes. And I want to be the enjoyer of that something that comes. And then the flip side is if they don't recognize all the sacrifices I went through to do such and such service, I feel unappreciated and neglected and, sad. So these are standard. We probably can identify with a number of them, these kinds of unsteadinesses. But the good news is it's standard, and gradually, progressively, we should be aware of them, but don't become discouraged because they're there, but continue to work on the bhajana kriya so that we can come to what the next chapter is anartha nivritti, and eradicating those things so steadiness can follow instead of the unsteadiness. So this is a little review. Bhajana Kriya gives two of the qualities of pure devotional service. This is, the sadhana bhakti, these first two. Relief from distress and all auspiciousness. Kleshagni and Shubhada. Now we're still in the Bhajana Kriya stage, the first of the three, Shraddha, Sadhusanga, and Bhajana Kriya. He writes, and we're almost done, this spiritualization of I and mine. If you remember, asmita. Remember that one? Avidya and asmita. So asmita, the material conception of I and mine. In the Bhajana Kriya stage, this gradually becomes spiritualized and more, you can say, in relation to Krishna, the sense of myself and those things that are mine, my property, my dhoti, my shoes, my computer, my, something. And I see it more in relation to Krishna. And material attachments, well, they're still there. In this, the Sanskrit term that he uses is they're purna. The idea is it is going to be consistent through each of the chapters. As the stages of bhakti go forward, each of these improves, in the direction of the spiritual position. One's meditation upon the Supreme, momentary. Every now and then I chant attentively. Every now and then I'm praying sincerely to the deities. Every now and then I'm really attentive in the Bhagavatam class instead of my mind wandering. But there's, still a strong inclination towards material topics. The mind. That's the end of chapter 2. We're done. So historically, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur came, of course, chronologically after Rupa Goswami. And as the other Goswamis looked very lovingly to Rupa Goswami, the successive acharyas also did. If you recall, when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was still, before he had moved to Vrindavan, when he was still a student in Bengal studying the Goswami literatures, as a student he wrote a commentary on Nectar of Devotion. He wrote a commentary on the sequel, Ujjvala Nilamani. And he wrote a commentary on Brihat Bhagavatamrita. So this is a later work of his where it's simple. That's why I selected it. It's very simple summary. The main key points to understand the progression of bhakti. How does it begin? Bhakti gives bhakti. Then how does bhakti first appear in the sadhana stages of bhakti? That's this chapter 2. And then we're going to hear, successively through the other chapters, the unfolding of the creeper of bhakti. Okay, so any discussion or questions anyone would like to raise? You got one?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the Sadhu Sangha section, you were mentioning two things which really propel one's advancement. It was associating with like-minded devotees and associating with advanced devotees.
Yes.
Maharaj, could you elaborate on what it means to associate with like-minded devotees, what exactly that means?
Well, it's not a stereotype kind of thing, rather like-minded. It can mean a number of things, but commonly it means those are on similar levels of devotion. And it can also mean those that have a similar liking of activities within devotion. Someone may like Harinam, so the Harinam likers get together and go on Harinam, like-minded persons with similar interest of service. Others like distributing books, so we may have different likes, like-minded. So those are two common ways in which like-minded means. Yes?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribo.
Again, thank you for class.
Uh-oh.
So, in the section on Shraddha, there's two types mentioned, the Svabhavika and the Baladupadita. So, what differentiates these two? Is it like the difference between Rag Bhakti and Vaidhi Bhakti? Or is it the difference between someone who has no past life Bhakti Sakriti and someone who does?
It's more the second one.
More the second one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, Prahlad, he was a Vaikuntha Bhav Bhakta. But he had a natural inclination. He describes in his prayers why. He was sent by Supreme Lord from the spiritual world to this world to teach unalloyed devotion, unmixed devotion. Yeah? Or maybe some of you have had this experience. I had this experience. When I first heard the chanting of Hare Krishna, I didn't know what it was, but I was attracted. And I didn't understand what that attraction was. And it wasn't like attraction to, pizza or something like that. It was attraction. It was a much deeper kind of attraction. And it wasn't even devotees. I remember going to the Norton Union music room on the 4th floor and going to check out the Hair album and just playing that song over and over again where they chanted Hare Krishna. I didn't even know what it was, but I was attracted. Later, when I read nectar devotion, I can understand where that came from. It means in a previous life. So there's the answer to your question. I didn't have to have somebody say, you should chant Hare Krishna because it's good for you. It just was. Okay. Yes. Up here?
Maharaj, because we have a tendency to be sort of deceptive even about ourselves.
Yeah, to
how
ourselves.
How can we know where we are? We can imagine we have less material attachments than we actually have. We can imagine we're more attached to Krishna than we are.
Well, it's a pretty safe assumption that we're self-deceivers. Pretty safe assumption. And so now your question was, how can we really know? Well, first be a little self-honest that we're self-deceivers, and then ask the deeper question. And there's, just you keep pursuing asking, the honest appraisal of self, and you get closer. And then also you have the opportunity where those that are not living your autobiography, they're friends or those close to you who know you, and then you just ask them.
One more question?
Yeah.
You mentioned being attracted to the Hare Krishna mantra, and you took that as evidence of being a devotee in past life, if I understood?
Well, by being attracted to devotion very quickly means just natural attraction for devotional activity in general means.
Does that mean it's appropriate, say, for me to consider myself, therefore I was a devotee in a past life because I have an attraction like that?
It depends on how quickly you got there. And how many, times somebody had to hammer your head to get you there. That's like, that's this. Yeah.
So bhajana kriya is, if I understand correctly, is this when you're practicing the sadhana process?
Kriya means activity.
Okay.
The activities of bhajan or devotional service. The activities of devotional service. So you may, someone may come and attend the Sunday program. So they're hearing the Sunday lecturer at the Sunday program. So that's a type of, but then when they go home, they may not continue hearing and reading and so, but when they continue the hearing and reading, then that's further cultivation of the bhajana kriya activity. Okay? Yeah. They take up devotional practices, basically. Anything over here? Yes.
Hare Krishna. So you spoke about the ups and downs that new devotees go through, utsahamai and so on. How do we make it through those ups and downs if we know that we're not even, we're struggling with enthusiasm, the mind and senses, etc.? How do we make it past that?
Okay. If I've understood your question correctly, you want to know how do you get from the unsteady to the steady. What's in between is anartha nivritti. The unsteadiness is caused by anarthas, and steadiness is when anarthas are nearly gone. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu, that verse. Nashta, prayeshu means almost destroyed to nil. Abhadreshu, so anarthas or abhadras or unwanted things of the heart become eradicated. Now how do they become eradicated? By bhajana kriya, by devotional practice, carefully performed. So that's how we get from unsteady to steady. Okay? Anything else?
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. So in the stage of bhajana kriya, it's so difficult for me to understand how these different kleshas are, because kleshagni is described as the removal of relief from all kinds of material distress.
Well, that's in this final stage. It begins and then matures. It begins and then matures.
So
The potency is there, full potency is there at the beginning, just we're not so, our receivers are kind of shut off. We're really covered, so we don't receiving the full kleshagni effect.
until later stages.
Until we become cleansed a bit, and then, but it's still in the sadhana stage. The potency is there, even in the sadhana stage is the point. Don't get lost in the language. Understand the message. The potency is there, even in the sadhana stage. And depending upon how covered one is, think about it, in practical terms. Someone may be really covered, but the potency of within the processes of bhakti, chanting and associating in prasadam and deity worship and mangalarti and all the things that we do, the sadhana practices that we do, there's enormous potency in these things. So it says something about how covered we are, that we're not experiencing the maximum, but the potency is there nonetheless.
These items will be fully experienced then at the stage beyond sadhana bhakti, which would be bhava bhakti. One can experience fully.
That's two things. One is, these are not, to describe these stages, it's not buckets. You know what I mean by that? Okay, I'm in this bucket, I'm going to jump out of this bucket and go into that bucket, the bhava bhakti, and then jump out of that bucket and go to the prema bhakti bucket. It's a spectrum, and the stages are there to help us see the picture of the spectrum. So what's happening down here continues over there, and continues over there, and it continues over there. It's not a bucket. And he's going to say other things like, sometimes this goes more quickly, sometimes that goes more, like he said already, the eradication of bad qualities and the manifesting of good qualities for different persons take place at different rate, in different sequence. So it's not a bucket, this is for analysis purpose. It's like, watching, for example, watching a tulsi plant grow from a seed. So you can describe, there's the first two leaves, and then it's a stage, but it keeps growing and keeps going. And second point, it is said that different than a plant, that little two-leafed little shoot that just comes up out of the ground, that's gone when the next stage comes and the next stage comes. That's in a material plant that's growing, or a material circumstance. However, with bhakti, this metaphor of a creeper, the previous one isn't gone. It's still there and maturing. It's the comparison, there's some similarity, there's some dissimilarity. So that which makes its appearance in the sadhana stage, once again, it continues in the bhava and prema stage with some additional somethings. And then in the lower region of the beginnings of those other stages, there's the faint appearance and then gradually becomes stronger, and continues into the next one. Okay? Yes? I think this is going to be a last question. Is it going to be a good question?
I don't know, Maharaj.
Let's see.
Thank you. Maharaj, it is said that whatever we perform devotional service in this life, even if somebody doesn't finish it, it is
like
started again.
When we perform devotional service, it's like a what?
What we perform in this life, if somebody is not able to complete, in next life, it will start from wherever he has left.
Very good.
So, does that apply even to this stages of devotional service?
Not exactly, but something like that. Not exactly. I mean, let's think of Bharat Maharaj. What was he in his next life? On the stage of Bhava Bhakti? There was a deer. But then when he became Jad Bharat, very elevated. So, not exactly, but something like that. And let me ask you, how long have you been a devotee?
I was practicing from 2000.
Okay, so something, 14, 15 years. Have you noticed that some persons, when they start taking up devotional service, they go, ooh, real fast. And then they seem to like plateau off. And then other devotees, and they plateau off. Have you noticed? Why is that? They're resuming where they left off. So the devotee that's just doing this little shouldn't feel, oh, I'm only little. That person should consider themselves fortunate to have contacted devotional service and continuing where they left off. And that other devotee is to be not envied but appreciated, because just see how much devotional service they've done in their previous life. They went so quickly to that state because of their previous life. That, one should not be envious, one should be appreciating. That's very nice. I get to associate with that more advanced person. That's my good fortune. Instead of envy. Oh, they're more advanced than me. I'm envying them. Is that all right?
Yeah, thank you, Master. Perfect.
You're smiling. You like that answer. Okay, I have to answer. Gokulamda. You have the last question now.
Thank you again for the class.
Did you attend class the other morning and I said, please don't start
I didn't.
One favor, I'll say it much more humbly than I did the other morning. Going into the future, my humble request, when asking questions, don't precede the question, at least when I'm giving class and you're asking questions with, very nice class, thank you very much for the class, one of those kind of things. Go ahead, ask your question now.
Okay, my question is about the Anishtita Bhakti.
Which one? Anishtita Bhakti. Okay.
These are the symptoms that we have there, but these symptoms can also create other symptoms.
Correct.
For example, the inability to give up bad things may create guilt in the devotee.
Yeah.
And so this stage should be, how do we understand? It's a natural process, like a child learning to walk, that he will have to fall down sometimes because it's part of the learning process.
Exactly. So we shouldn't beat ourselves up when we see we got these things going on in our lives. It's part of the child learning to walk. That is to say, the walking propensity is within. So that's yay, that's the celebration part. And then I haven't learned to walk yet. That's like, well, I just have to keep practicing part. Not, oh, I'm discouraged, I can't walk yet. I'm doing these other things. Now, especially this last one, I mean, all of them, the last three, indecision, inability to give up bad things, that's a problem. This is the last one. Making a vow to improve and being unable to sustain that, that's a territory that we're all familiar with. And it's something that it takes strength. It takes spiritual strength and Krishna's mercy, not just, I'm going to do it kind of strength, but depending upon Krishna's mercy. It's part of progressing to like your question, the platform of steadiness. So it's spiritual strength and purity that I'm depending not just on my own effort, but Krishna's mercy. Otherwise, it's going to stay stuck. And same. Then this last one, it's especially at risk for persons who become a little successful. It's guaranteed it's going to come. And so in one sense, it's bad, or it can be detrimental that one offers appreciation to a devotee for how nicely you have done your devotional service. Because that devotee may say yes and take it. But it happens, because it's something that as Vaishnavas we're supposed to do. We offer our appreciation for other Vaishnavas. Now they got this Tarangarangani thing going on. So they have to be pure, and it doesn't stick, it just keeps going. Yes, there's collateral negativities that come from the core ones. But it's progressive advancement. Does that address your question? Not exactly?
Yes, my idea was that, yeah, you answer, because it's a natural process. So as the child doesn't supposed to be, he's not discouraged, he just keep going.
Yeah.
So, but Bhajana Kriya is, you're supposed to be initiated when you are in Bhajana. Well, at least
it comes in
Prabhupada.
that stage, but I know initiated devotees that, have some of those things going on.
Yeah. So when Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur is talking about bad things, what does it mean? Because
What does which mean?
what does it mean bad things, inability to give up bad things? Because for it depends of the sadhak of our situation. For a devotee, a bad thing may be something like not paying properly obeisances, but for others may be going up and drinking alcohol.
That's detail. That's it. There's degrees of bad things.
I say this because if you take the vow of initiation and then you say this is a natural process and I'm falling down and I'm not able to follow the vows that I made during the initiation, then it's, how can we say that it will be a natural process? That is more like a deviation. And how the devotee will deal with that.
Okay, well, let's take another example. Being harsh in one's speech. I keep my 4 vows, but I'm harsh in my speech. And I know that it's not Vaishnava-like to be harsh in my speech. So it's a bad thing. I like to give it up. And I contemplate how it's not a good thing, it's good to give it up. And I still just speak harshly sometimes, and I don't like that, and I'm stuck. So there's degrees, is my point. So giving up bad things is degrees. It's different than giving a vow of initiation and not upholding the vow of initiation. It's a whole other thing. And even that. Not like now that person is garbage or something.
Yeah.
They may be weak, or they've succumbed to some weakness for whatever the cause or circumstance. We don't trash that person. Just it's an unsteadiness for them. It's a more serious kind of unsteadiness than something else. I don't put my shoes in the shoe rack. Instead, I leave them by the door, although there's a sign by the door that says, don't leave them by the door. There's degrees. Is that all right?
Yes. And the last question?
Go right ahead. You have a license.
No.
Power of attorney.
How Vipannatha Chakravarti Thakur came with this, where he took this terminology, and also, because we know that it's not from his own experience. I don't think so. So, where he found out these things is from another previous books, or he is the first one who came up with this division of Utsaha Maya, Ganatarala.
I'm looking at him, Anshu. Have you understood his question? Could you help me understand his question?
He wants to know where Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur derived these definitions from.
What's the source?
And because it couldn't be from his own experience.
What's the scriptural source for these?
Yes,
that's what your
right?
question
Scriptural source.
Yeah, it can be the scriptural source.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure he didn't make them up, like,
Yeah.
So what source did he derive them from? I don't know.
Thanks. No for the answer.
Srila Prabhupada ki? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki? Gaur Premanandi.